You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty Chin.
That's right. Yeah!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Well, the Dallas Mavericks on life support down 0-3. Boston able to make just enough plays down the stretch. Luka fouls out. Kyrie tries to take over, just can't get it done. And just like that, the Celtics one win away from sweeping an NBA Finals and winning a title. Joining us now, he's our favorite dude on the planet. He knows more about basketball than you do. He plays a meaner guitar than you do, and he's better looking than you are. It's Tim LaComb. Coach, how are you?
What's going on, you vagabonds, you?
He's got more money than we've got.
Oh, would you stop with that?
Just called us a vagabond, man. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it's a good thing.
Oh,
that's a
it's a good thing in my world, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah.
I'm King Vagabond. That's. But yeah, man, it's great to be with you. Beautiful summer day, and you guys hit it on the head. I think we have seen I guess, kind of the outcome before the outcome with this series. Kind of opened last night, maybe for a little momentum for Dallas, but couldn't find it, even with Porzingis out, and I think the writing's on the wall now. It's just, again, the question, gentleman sweep or straight sweep, and I am feeling straight sweep.
Yeah, I am too. After last night, I think Game 3 was the game to be had, and you don't get it, and now why take it back to Boston for Game 5? Just finish it off and be done and go enjoy your parade.
Yeah, and it will be quite a parade. They have not had such a parade, if I remember right, since 2008 or 9.
Yep.
Am I thinking right?
KG,
So-
anything is possible. Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't he
That
mess
was
up his line in that?
Last time for them.
Wasn't it supposed to be in like an Adidas line or something that he was supposed to yell, and he yelled the wrong thing?
I can't remember. That sounds familiar, though.
Hey, maybe we can come back and revisit this, but I almost want to put a blanket on this game because it's all a big wet blanket to me. This final sucks. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit down and out about it, but you know what doesn't suck? Hey, Coach, is BYU turning into a basketball school? Is this what is happening right in front of us here?
Wow, it's remarkable, really. It's almost like every day I turn around and they're on the board for another top 5 guy. A lot going on, and I think the commitment has been really solidified. I think the hiring of Kevin Young, I think his vision, coupled with second year in the Big 12, kind of understanding what you're up against, and if you're going to be good in college athletics right now, you have to have a robust way to pay these guys. You have to have a robust NIL, and I think BYU worked really, really hard at that. Former player of mine, Craig Cusick, who is now he's with Qualtrics, but he moved to Europe recently. But he spent the better part of a year. He and Mark Cohn were just grinding, and I think that they were able to build up the NIL there, and then I think the new excitement. I think the vision, and obviously kind of being in and able to fish in ponds that BYU's never been able to fish in before.
Well, I mean, when you look at NIL, and I know a lot of schools are doing this, and I don't know if BYU consciously is doing this, but it's a lot easier to support 15 players than it is 85 players. And there's a lot of schools out there that are like, hey, look, it's a new world. What can we be great in? And they're looking at college, and they're looking at basketball and saying, we can do that instead of this. Like the numbers that are being used at UNLV in New Mexico are crazy for basketball. And football's like, just try not to embarrass us. But basketball, we're going all in on because it's easier to do and more financially feasible. And again, I'm not saying that's what's going on at BYU, but a lot of schools are consciously making that decision.
Yeah, and I think with BYU, I think the one ace in the hole there is their history over time. You know, they every weekend they routinely fill that place. You know, and the fans, whether the team's great or the team's fighting to be great, there's a great level of support. And so I think football's always going to have its money. I think football's always going to have its day there. But I think the excitement around basketball, kind of the new opportunities that exist now within the frameworks of the NCAA, it was once kind of a hidden world that nobody got to play in unless you were really willing to venture into some back alleys. And I think now everything's brought into the light. BYU's been pretty organized at getting things put together on the basketball side, and I think we're starting to see the benefit of that. I really intrigued to see how they wrap up the roster and moving into year one with Kevin Young, how things go.
So BYU's got their nice new shiny coach and seems to be spending money on their recruits and their roster. Utah State's got their nice new shiny coach. Scotty and I got to interview him. Scotty, I don't want to speak for you, but I was extremely
super impressed with that guy. Yeah,
with him, and Utah State, of course, winning conference championships and getting in deep in conference tournaments and doing some great things. How much pressure is being put on Utah basketball by what's kind of happening in the state with the money that they're going after and the coaches that they're bringing in? How much pressure is that putting on Utah?
Well, I think it's putting a ton of pressure. I think, all the things I talked about with BYU, I think Utah has not done as good a job on the basketball side. Just literally for starters, just with marketing and attendance for the games, So, yeah, they're fighting an uphill battle. There's no question about it. I mean, I like some of the moves that I've seen Craig make, having to kind of retool a big part of the roster and then replacing what seems like the entire staff. So I think, the proof's going to be in the pudding, but I do think, again, the way to be successful now is to have a really robust NIL. You've got to have a reason for guys that want to go there too, from a development standpoint. And I think that's where BYU hiring Kevin Young was brilliant, because he brought basically a very polished group of coaches in that it's going to be a real selling point. When you say you've got a former, head level assistant at the NBA level, and you've got, a couple of dudes that were head coaches in the G League. I mean, they understand what's required. So I think it's just a growing, concern at Utah just for lack of support more than anything. And it's crazy that I even utter those words, because there was a time where you could not get a seat in that building. But it's just crazy how things change.
Yeah. Tim LaComb joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We talk about this in the NFL and college football. There's a lot of coaches that were leaving college to go to the NFL because they didn't want to deal with NIL. They didn't want to deal with any of these other issues. But you got Kevin Young, who very frankly was on a fast track to being a head coach. He's at BYU. And Dan Hurley, who just gave the middle finger to the Lakers to stay at UConn, is, if you're in a spot where you've got a school that's willing to pay the money for the NIL, is college still a place you would prefer to be over the NBA?
I think you have to look at the schedule. Both are crazy. Both are, more than full-time jobs. But I do think you have a little wiggle room just in number of games. And I had an opportunity to visit with Kevin briefly in the last couple of weeks. And, we talked a little bit about that. I think that the move he made, as much as it was for basketball, was for his family. I think you're out on the road. You hear the term, you hear 82 games. And I grew my whole life knowing the NBA, knowing they played 82, but it's a whole different animal when your rear end's got to be in a seat 82 times a year. And then all the travel that goes with it. When you look at the basketball season, probably the most who plays 40. So if you build a really cool staff and you've got a great story to tell with a young family, Kevin's able to compete still at very, very highest level in college, and prepare guys for the league that he was just in and knows something about. But again, I think this move above all else, above the money, everything, it certainly had to be the right fit. But I think this was it was a life decision for Kevin. And then I was thrilled that Dan turned down the Lakers, because it would have a brutal move. And I tweeted about it. He's going to be a part of a coaching graveyard, because every coach that ever coaches is. And my headstone's displayed out on my front lawn. But he's not going to be in LeBron's graveyard. And I think that was a really wise choice. There's a track record there. And I think that was great to see somebody who has it going on and understands it on and stayed where it's going on.
Well, Coach, outside of college basketball, I think the biggest thing we've got coming up here, June 26th, I'm hoping to be back on some coverage with you. I'm sure you'll be doing the TV side of things, but the first day of the NBA draft, first of all, splitting it into 2 days, but the Jazz with number 10, the Jazz with number 29, and then the second day, the Jazz with number 32. How you feeling about Dalton Connect or a Ronald Holland or a Devin Carter, or how you feeling about some of those guys that should be available right around number 10? And what do you think specifically the Jazz should do? Do they target best talent at 10? Do they target a certain position at 10? How do they handle that?
Well, the beauty of the draft every year is, the old saying that the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And I don't know that I've ever seen a draft so topsy-turvy. One day you read and look at some projections. You dig into some the next day, and they're so vastly different. A guy who's maybe not even listed in the top 10 on one is maybe in the top 5 on another. So it's pretty crazy out there, just the movement. And I think that goes to what you're talking about. It's team need. I think that will definitely drive some of the decision making, but I would assume in a down year as well, that there will probably be teams willing to move around a little bit. So I think the uncertainty of the placement of the players and then everybody's willingness to maybe move around, that we could be in for a kind of a wild night and days leading up to the draft. You only get so many of these windows. And to your point about what the Jazz need, I'd really love to see – the one thing I noticed about this draft, I've got a 3-year-old grandson, and, you get a 3-year-old and they're obsessed with bathroom talk. Yeah. I heard David Locke today call this that, every guy in this draft is a butt guy. By that I mean he's really good shooter, but he can't move his feet, or, unbelievably talented, but bad motor, one of those deals. So it's a 3-year-old bathroom talk draft. It's a butt draft, but I do think housed in that there's really there's some really good players that I think can probably impact winning right away. And I would put my stock in the fact that the Jazz probably take somebody that's a little bit older, that's a little bit more experienced, but has a penchant of being a winner, if that makes sense. Danny, in talking to him a couple times through the years during the draft process, always kind of looks for an outlier, something that they do at a freakish level. Could be length, could be shot blocking, could be floor running, all these different things. But I would bet you they push a little bit into that competitiveness, somebody probably capable of guarding the yard, and then just, again, impact winning. A guy like Marcus Smart, who's maybe when they were drafted, kind of wonder how they're going to – but at the end of the day, their role was very, very evident right from the beginning. They were there to impact winning. And so I think that there's a handful of guys on the board that could help the Jazz in that regard, and I would not be surprised if that's the direction they go.
All right, so I'm reading between the lines here, and I know you're not saying that but what you're implying, I heard 2 players there. that jumped out at me. First off, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, the Dalton Neck, the kid from Tennessee, older guy, and he's got one great skill set. He shoots the heck out of the basketball, and again, there's going to be limitations to his game. He's older, but he does bring an elite skill set to the table. And then the other guy that I hear that you talk about freakish length is, and I don't, obviously the Jazz, I wouldn't imagine they'd use him for that first pick, but maybe later for the picks, is Edey. Could you see either one of those two guys? I'm just using your examples of the type of player that the Jazz might be looking for.
Yeah, and I would throw a couple guys in there too. I think those guys are definite possibilities. Connect more than Edey, but nothing against Edey. I still believe, what is his ceiling on minutes played? The things that he does well, he does so well. But when you start talking about a league that's just consumed with ball screens, you're going to see more ball screens in a possession probably now than you would have seen in 10 years ago in 5, games. I mean, there's just so many ball screens, and the bigs have such a huge assignment. And we saw it with Minnesota, with Gobert's penchant to want to guard everything in drop coverage. Dallas kind of made hay on that. And so you wonder about how big an impact Edey can make, and with the right team, I think he can. I think Connect, you're exactly right. The butt on him, dude can shoot the ball, on the move, great catch and shoot guy. There were shades as I watched his tape of Bojan Bogdanovic, a guy like that. Gets it off quick. Connect's probably got a little better upside off the bounce than Bojan did. But a guy that stands out to me, in the way of impacting winning and experience would be, those two Connecticut players in Klingon. And I actually, in the pro game, I actually favor Klingon over Edey because I just think all of the things I talked about, I think Klingon can do them a little better. And then the other guy is a guy named Devin Carter from Providence. And, 6'3", you look at his bio, his dad was Anthony Carter, played in the NBA, played for Hawaii in college, was their leading assist guy in history. But his son, Devin, you watch that dude compete, the way he fights over ball screens, to have a guy out there that just instantly brings defensive credibility. His length at 6'3", he's got a 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. So similar to like an Avery Bradley, who just happens to be here in Utah now. He's a guy that stands out. And then Stephon Castle, I know the verdict on him, his butt is, can he shoot? But I love watching that dude defend with the urgency, that his life depends on it. And I do think the Jazz need a little of that to mix in with the guys they've got right now.
So I love Donovan Klingon. I love where he's come from, who's coached him. I loved his game, everything that he showed in crunch. I know his height. He's at whatever, 7'2" or 7'3" he is. What he did defensively, I love it. I just can't see him on the board at 10. Do you see any possible way that Donovan Klingon could be on the board at 10? Because if he is, I just don't think you pass him without taking him.
No, I think, prior to maybe the last 2 months, you would say that he would be, but I don't think anymore. I think, everything I've read about his workouts and, just what movement he's made has been all upward trajectory. So I'd be surprised if he were around. But again, I think I would also be surprised if the Jazz draft 3 guys this year. Really would. As I said, I think there's going to be some movement. And so that's what we got to sit back and watch. But it will be one of those nights, some drafts you show up and everybody understands the first 5 picks are set in stone. And I don't think the first pick's set in stone. I mean, that's how random this draft will be. I sit and look at some of the names thrown out there, and they just don't seem like number 1, number 2 guys to me. So, again, it's going to be really interesting to see where this thing goes, but probably, even if it's quote-unquote down, still one of the more intriguing drafts. This is my 4th year, and I will be doing TV this year. It's really going to be fun working with David Locke at the at the vaunted draft desk. So I have been digging into these guys and still have a whole lot of work to do, but really interesting to see the talent out there.
Well, always good catching up with you. Appreciate your time, Coach, and let's do it again next week, all right?
Hey, you too. I love you guys, man.
We love you, Coach.
You're the best.
Yeah.
We'll see you.
There he is, Tim LaComb, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, coming up next, we're going to spin the wheel. Little sports roulette straight ahead. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
3, 2, 1. It's the 10th annual Top 60 and 60. Get your college football fix every day at 1:30 as the Zone counts you down to the start of the 2024 season by listing off the top 60 players in the state of Utah as voted on by the local media and you, the fans. You'll also hear from the coaches as they talk about the players that will impact their season the most. It's the Top 60 and 60, weekdays at 1:30, presented by 5 Star Painting on your home of the best college football coverage in Utah. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The wheel is loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for another edition of Sports Roulette. We take the big storylines of the day, we put on a roulette wheel, we spin it. Wherever that little ball lands is what we end up talking about. A lot on the table. We got about 17 stories on the old roulette wheel.
Jam-packed.
Ooh, baby. All right, so let's get to it. Lloyd, fire up that wheel.
Before Lavelle and Sloan? Come on.
Well, Tom Brady was inducted into the New England Hall of Fame, and it was also announced that they are going to be putting a 12-foot bronze sculpture of Tom Brady in front of Gillette Stadium. 12-foot bronze sculpture of Tom Brady in front of Gillette Stadium. It is the only person that will be commemorated in bronze in front of that stadium. Robert Kraft announced it at this whole event.
I'm sure Robert Kraft will put a statue of himself up there, too. Like, what was it? Jerry Richardson did it in Carolina.
The Carolina. And he was, like, holding back Panthers or something.
Yeah.
Maybe this is why Tom was so upset when what's-his-face made a joke at him at the roast, because he knew this was coming.
Yeah, maybe so. Although Drew Bledsoe, they asked him about what to expect from the ceremony last night. He goes, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to be a lot nicer to him on this one than we were.
Tom Brady, 12-foot bronze sculpture. Will we ever see a Jerry Sloan in front of Delta Center?
Yeah, we will. I've not heard that specifically from anybody, but we will.
Will we see Lavelle in front of Lavelle Edwards Stadium?
Now that I don't know. I would ask. I don't know people down there well enough. I know the Jazz Brass want to do it, and I think when all these renovations happen and stuff like that, it would not surprise me if that was part of that in some way, shape, or form.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
The only thing they've got is the bronze cougar that was like donated back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody loves a bronze figure of their sports heroes, don't they?
Yeah, take a picture by him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you and I, or Lloyd, you walk over to the arena and you got some random tourist that's taking a picture next to John and Carl and those statues all the time, every day. There's somebody taking a picture there. And Jerry Sloan needs to have his own there.
Would you say those are 12-footers without the pedestal? Because this is a 12-foot of Tom without
12
pedestal.
seems awfully high for those John and Carl ones. I don't think they're 12.
I've got nothing against John Stockton, but Jerry should have had one before John.
Yes. But I think Jerry was still coaching when those things went up. Like, they got those statues up fast.
He was.
Yeah, he was.
You're right.
But think of 12 foot. 12 foot is if Lloyd Cole was standing on my shoulders. That's 12 foot. That's a big.
The big man Majamba.
Merlin's is probably
I'd say maybe 9 to 10.
That's where I would put it, 9 to 10. On the pedestal, it's 12.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a 12-foot of Tom, that's might be a little much.
For Tom, he's thinking no. That's
what Tom
plenty.
did. Yeah, Tom built that place. I do love our sports heroes. Who else are we missing with statues?
Here locally?
Yeah. Is there anybody else that needs to go up? I know Jerry Sloan with the Jazz, Lavelle Edwards.
Is there Kyle
BYU.
Whittingham should get one when he's done.
He will. He absolutely
He has to be.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think Utah should put one of Ron McBride, too.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Because I know that it ended poorly with Ron in terms of Chris Hill firing him, which I still don't agree with. But Utah's not Utah without Ron McBride. Everything that you have and you're seeing with the University of Utah does not exist if Ron McBride is not the coach.
Yeah, I agree with that. So when you go to stadiums, like I've been making it to a couple of these baseball parks, and you're seeing the commemorations of people that you've never heard of before.
I love it.
See, to me, it's like, oh, well, what's that?
Yeah. I love seeing that stuff.
It's Pat.
Yeah.
You know, you walk up to it and you read it and you go through it and you're like, oh, I didn't know about that guy.
Yeah. I when we get to a stadium, especially, if I'm going to I've been to Alabama and Tennessee, and Wake Forest actually has some really cool statues. Where was I at last year? Iowa had a couple of really cool statues of people that I'd never heard of, but were important to the development of their programs. And, Kevin White and I walk around the stadium a little bit, usually because we don't know where we're going. And Ajay takes us on a weird path trying to get up to the press box. Boss, it's over here. I'm like, no. And we walk another 2 miles trying to find a way up to the press box.
It's like trying to get to a Pac-12 media day.
Yeah.
It's just the way you do it. Your Ajay impression is too much.
I love Ajay, by the way. He's such a great dude.
And the way he hustles with it.
Oh, he's such a hustler. He
hustles you into problems.
He puts us into some weird spots sometimes.
Boss, I was just trying to get the equipment up there. I backed the van right into the gates. I backed the van into it's into
no,
the gates.
That would admit that would be saying that he would admit to it.
Oh no, he wouldn't.
He'd lie his what off. Anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, I love seeing that stuff, and I think you need to embrace that, embrace your history, do everything you can, and hopefully someday we'll see a Jerry Sloan.
You're getting into going to ballparks. You need to go to the Giants Stadium in San Francisco.
That
one's awesome.
Does Barry Bonds have a statue?
No, he doesn't. He should.
Can I throw one suggestion out?
Hans Olsen.
Tell me if I'm getting out of line here. New Beast Stadium, Steve Clocky.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. 100%. The Daybreak Stadium? Yes. Absolutely. Do it. Thank you. No brainer.
That just hit
And it
me.
doesn't even need to be a full-fledged, even if it's just a bust, just something that commemorates him. Not
29
and I know,
seasons behind the mic.
And I know if it's not there already on the broadcast booth, they'll put his name on the broadcast booth. That's nice, but nobody sees that.
People can see it.
People need to know who Steve Clocky is. 15, 20 years from now, people still need to know who Steve Clocky is.
Because remember, in AAA, we're not going to remember managers. You don't have legacy.
Some people don't even know when they come right on.
I know. Yeah. Some people will call them by the wrong name on interviews. Man, Jake Scott. That's got to be the greatest Jake Scott moment of all time.
I don't know. There's a lot of great Jake Scott moments.
Yeah, but him being like...
That's just one of the many.
Matt Harpering.
Stephen Rogers sitting here with us. And
actually, my name is Keith Johnson.
Manager of the Salt Lake Bees, Stephen Rogers. It's Keith. Oh. Anyways, we shouldn't get into the weeds of all this.
Yeah, that stuff's not important.
But put that man in front of, in bold area. Yeah. I want to see Steve Clocky.
Yep.
And I don't want just a write-up on him.
No.
I want to see his face.
Yeah.
No chance that guy should be gone.
No. All right, one more, Lloyd. Let's go ahead and spin it.
Charles Barkley got a little loose on live TV.
Well, Hans, you always know Charles Barkley. He's got stuff to say. He's got opinions.
By the way, so this was at game. He was at Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's where this happened on Sportsnet TV.
The Oilers were your pick from the outset. What do you think of them so far?
Well, they played great in Game 1, but they didn't win. Bobrovsky was. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. He was freaking amazing. I apologize, y'all kids at home. He was freaking amazing. But, the Oilers, man, they've been amazing. I picked them from the start of the playoffs. But, Florida, the Panthers are amazing. So I'm looking forward to the third period.
Jeez, Chuck. If you can't say it on TNT, don't say it in Canada.
Well, okay. I actually have a problem with this. I've actually got a problem with this cut. We had it in a while ago, just didn't get when we weren't able to get to it. I've got a problem with this. He knows exactly what he's saying. That's not a mistake.
Yeah. You've been doing live TV for 20 years now.
It's not a mistake, man.
Or is he a little tipsy?
Maybe, but you're trying to be funny, or you think that that's cute, or you just don't care. Maybe you're upset that you're having to be there.
Yeah,
and so
be.
You do something to let the world know. Like, don't bug me with stupid interviews on your stupid little stations, or else you're going to get this.
Yeah.
But that F word was calculated. It was purposeful. That is not an accident. For him to say, oops, excuse me, like, Chuck, I love you, bro. I love you. But I know that was not accidental. And you know why that bugs me? Because if somebody comes and does that on our show.
Oh, yeah.
It's not funny.
No, that's our job right there.
Right. Because you get fines and you get meetings and you're looking at your boss like, I just thought it would be great to have Charles on for a minute. I thought that would be helpful.
Yeah. We do a simulcast with a show in Dallas.
Yeah. And how does that affect him? It doesn't. He's not hurt by that.
No, doesn't bother him. No,
not a lick. He's on Give Me Attention Tour 101 right now because the NBA Live crew is getting shut down. So he wants all the attention he can get.
Yeah.
And this guy just got put in the crosshairs, and that's a bum deal. And I know that station got fines. Many fines.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. As much as I love Charles, and typically I'll dismiss things and have fun with it, but you just dropped a meaningful, purposeful F-bomb on my show, and you don't have to answer for it. That sucks. I don't like it. And I typically laugh off Charles Barkley stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing this one off.
No. Because you're right. Barkley doesn't take the hit. That station does.
Right.
The network does.
And I know they did.
And the hosts do. Yeah. I mean, never mind. I won't share that story. All right. Hans and Scotty. One more, Lloyd. Go ahead and spin it.
It's not worth $750,000 to show up.
Apparently, if you're Lamar Jackson, $750,000 doesn't mean much anymore. And I always am surprised by this. Now, you were obviously in a different situation, but with all these, I mean, did you get cash for showing up to workouts, or was it just the St. Elmo's gift cards?
Cash.
So you got cash and some gift cards if you're all at your workouts and everything like that. Well, most players do have those in their contracts, where if they show up for off-season workouts and they have a certain attendance, that they get bonuses. Well, Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson has a workout bonus in his contract where if he shows up, I'm not exactly sure what the percent. Oh, just 80%. That's it. He just has to be at 80% of the team's offseason program.
That's not hard.
He did not attend those. He skipped 4 out of Baltimore's first 5 voluntary organized team activities.
Why even come to the one then?
It cost him $750,000. Now, look, This is a dude that's going to earn $14.2 million in just base salary next year. So he's going to make
how much?
14.2, and that's just in base. So I'm sure there's other things that are involved, performance throughout the season, where
plus endorsements.
He'll probably be pushing 20 before it's all said and done. But still, $750,000, that's still a good chunk of change just to be like, nah, you know what? I'm good.
And you know what really gets my goat? He's going to be on a mic somewhere, retired, saying, the NFL really doesn't set you up to succeed.
They don't really take care of you.
They don't set you up to be financially successful like Draymond Green.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I don't know if America has ever wanted to punch somebody in their face more than when Draymond Green said that.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's like when that first NBA lockout in the late 90s and Patrick Ewing got on a mic and said, hey, look, this is a hard time for us. And everybody's like, you guys are multimillionaires. Shut up. And he's like, well, we do make a lot of money, but we do spend a lot of money. It's one of the worst PR lines ever for a player to say during a lockout. When you're trying to get public support and you're fighting with the owners for that last dollar and you want the public on your side. And Patrick Ewing says, well, we do make a lot, but we also spend a lot. It's like, yeah, that's not helping your cause any. Got to be careful of that stuff.
Yep.
All right, 250. Hans and Scotty. We'll wrap this bad boy up next right here on The Zone.
3, 2, 1. It's the 10th annual Top 60 and 60. Get your college football fix every day at 1:30 as the Zone counts you down to the start of the 2024 season by listing off the top 60 players in the state of Utah as voted on by the local media and you, the fans. You'll also hear from the coaches as they talk about the players that will impact their season the most. It's the Top 60 and 60, weekdays at 1:30, presented by 5 Star Painting on your home of the best college football coverage in Utah. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah! We've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby. Don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Maybe we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build.
Hans and Scotty. Another show in the books. Thanks for making us part of your day. This is a fun one today. Again, if you missed any part of the show, it's available for you in podcast form. All you have to do is go to kslsports.com or just wherever you get your podcast, search Hans and Scotty, and you will get all the latest sound, all full shows, individual interviews. It's good stuff.
We got pretty much everything, some NHL insight with Sean, who I think is one of the better NHL minds out there. Gentili is fantastic at what he does. Coach LaComb came on, and we hit NBA and a lot of college and then some NBA draft. You're going to want to go back and listen to that.
Yep.
And, good, bad, and ugly. We had a blast today. It's been a fun show. Brian Taylor joined us talking about the performance of Tony Finau so far, which Tony had I think it was best opening round of U.S. Open.
Yeah, 2 under and should have been 3. Bogeyed that last hole.
2 under. And the last time I looked, there were 17 of 138 off the box that were even under par.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy course.
Nope, not at all. We'll have a round 2 update tomorrow with Bob Casper will join us, and we'll continue to talk NBA and NFL NBA and NHL as well. JJ and Alex coming up next. Hans and Scotty, have a great Thursday. Back with you on a Friday edition of the show tomorrow right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.